to negotiate anything with anyone from around the world. By the time you're done watching this video, you'll feel equipped to enter into business dealings with people all over the globe. Negotiating isn't simply about getting what you want. Learn how to do your homework beforehand so you're more successful. You're going to learn tactics so that you don't get lost in unfamiliar cultural territory. You're going to leave knowing the one thing that you must have to be successful in any negotiation. You ready to get started? Let's go. When we're talking about negotiating with people from around the world, one of the first things you have to do is familiarize yourself with their culture. If you do not understand their culture, you do not understand their perspective. You're more likely to make a faux pas or do something that's culturally insensitive. We have to understand their culture. Now, if you're from a society or belief system where it's kind of me-centric and it's about people coming to me, we have to understand that not everyone operates the same way that we do. Not everyone values things the same way that we do. So for instance, I'm a US citizen. We value directness in negotiations. We tend to get right to the point. That is our culture. If you're doing business in Latin America from that standpoint, where you're just get right to business and not really get to know each other, you are going to be terrible. You're going to get no business done. And so every culture is a little bit different. Understanding the culture is going to help you connect with them better so that you can have better outcomes. Now, how can you research their culture? There's a few different ways. Number one, there are books on all kinds of cultures from all over the world. Now, you don't need to get a book on a culture and analyze everything about their history. You're looking for books around their culture when it pertains to business. So you understand their business culture. Do they shake hands? Do they bow? Do they kiss each other's cheeks? If you're dealing with people of different genders, how do you interact? So books can help you with that. Or if you want to cheat, you can just find someone that's an expert on a particular type of business culture. Now you might be saying, where do I find someone like that? There's a lot of places, but if you just want to make it real simple, I like to go to places like Upwork, where you can find people from all over the world who are independent contractors. I'll find someone that's of that culture, whether they're living there now or not, who could explain it to me, or more ideally, here's my sneaky secret. I like to find someone who spent some time living in the United States, if they're not currently living in the United States, who is from that culture. I know that those people have a better opportunity for explaining little nuances to me cross-culture because they understand where I'm coming from, but their base culture is of that other country. So in addition to finding a book on Amazon or in a bookstore or leveraging a professional on Upwork, the other thing you can do is go to ChatGPT and ask it some questions. Now, let me issue a warning. ChatGPT can hallucinate. If you do not know what a hallucination is, I suggest you go check out some of my other videos about ChatGPT and generative AI. They go into detail about what hallucinations are. But what that basically means is that you do need to double check the information it gives you. But let me ask you this. Is it faster for you to go on Google and just ask about business culture of a country, or to go to ChatGPT and say, what are the 10 things I need to understand in negotiating with people of this culture? And then you go to Google and plug in each one of these points just to verify. It's a little bit faster using ChatGPT. So those are my sneaky secrets for making sure that you have some level of cultural competence with the other party. So moving on with the culture, let's take this one step further. We have to understand their laws and their general code of conduct. Not everything that's legal in one country is legal in another. Not everything that is socially permissible in one country is socially permissible in another. So for instance, sending client gifts or something before a meeting, just a little, I'm happy to meet you, that's perfectly acceptable in some cultures and industries within those cultures, but in other countries, that might be perceived as a bribe. We want to make sure that we don't run afoul of their laws and their general codes of conduct. The next thing you want to consider is, what are each of your goals? What are they trying to get out of this transaction? What do they need to happen for them to be the hero? You can even ask them this question, ideally, what needs to happen for this to be a success? If they're not the owner of the company or the top level management, what is it that your management would like to see happen? What can we make happen that'll make you look like a superhero? Understand their perspective. Sometimes they'll even give you specific numbers on what needs to happen. And then also understand, what is your goal? And usually our goals in negotiations, we have a little bit of flex room, right? We have an ideal thing we want to accomplish, but we also have that fallback thing that if it still hits this level, it's still a success. So we do have to identify the goals of both sides. Now, I mentioned that fallback number, but we do need to have a line in the sand. Any negotiation we have to approach willing to walk away if we don't hit this minimal line. If you do not have that line identified, you are going to have someone tap dance all over your face. I don't know if you've ever been involved in a negotiation. When it was over, you felt used and you were like, it would have been better for me not to accept this at all. I'm in a worse position. That's because that line was not drawn in the sand and you didn't identify it beforehand. There's no judgment. We've all been there. And again, this is true of business or personal life, but in this case, we're talking about cultural interactions. And now that I think about it, even though we're talking about negotiating with people all over the world, this really still could be a business or a personal interaction. You can negotiate personal relationships with people from other countries in similar ways because you're coming from different cultures. What's your bare minimum? What's your walk away? So now that we've identified our lines in the sand, we know what each side's goals are. We also know what the cultural norms are, as well as the laws and the customs that kind of inform how they interact. It's time to enter into negotiations, making sure that as we're doing it, we're being culturally sensitive. Typically, you want to lean more towards the slightly more dominant culture and just kind of see what's going on there, but we want to be respectful on all ends. So I'm going to give you a personal story that kind of illustrates how cultures negotiate things differently. It's something out of my personal life, but it did happen as a result of a business transaction. So a few years ago, I was hired to speak in Accra, Ghana at the Woman 2.0 Summit. The whole goal was for me to empower the women in business in the country of Ghana, talking about some of the technologies they could use to grow their own individual small businesses. Now, one of the things that the conference organizers did once the event was over and the day following was take all of the Americans that had been flown in to be speakers on a little tour around Accra, Ghana. One of the places they took us was to the Makala Market, which is the most famous market in Accra, Ghana. And you go there and it's very much like a flea market atmosphere. So when we got there, the customer immediately told all of us, whatever you do, do not buy anything without one of the people from my team being with you. Don't buy anything. You don't know what you're doing. I don't want you to be ripped off. Can you guess what I did? I bought something. Now, here's what's interesting. I understand why my client was trying to protect us in that environment, thinking that we would be ripped off, because the way that they do business is different than the way that we typically do business in the United States, which is my culture. Typically, people tell you, here's a price, you pay that price, and you walk away. But in some cultures, it's much more of a back and forth. You may have even seen this in business environments where with some cultures, because you know it's a back and forth, you start your price up higher than that walk away or even your ideal fee, knowing that it has to come down because for them, that's a part of respectful negotiations. You're respecting them by going back and forth. What he didn't know was that I had the cultural competence to understand how that worked, because even though I'm a US citizen, I grew up in areas where there were flea markets that operated much the same. And so I very easily went into a stall, I saw a dress I liked, I negotiated for it knowing we had to go back and forth, and I walked back with it. So a couple minutes later, he saw the dress in my hand and he said, "Oh no, sister. Oh no, I told you not to buy anything without one of us with you. How much did you pay for this?" And I told him how many cedis I paid. Cedis is their money. And he said, and he touched it. He said, that's a good price. I said, I know. So my point to this story is that we do have to understand that people negotiate differently. Back when I was in sales and hotels, I understood that different groups would want to go back and forth on pricing for their conferences. So we started them up a little higher, knowing that we were going to fall down to the rate that we normally would for everyone else. So we didn't overcharge them, but we were culturally competent enough to know that we needed to have that dance, because for them, that was part of the process. And so as you're beginning negotiations, honor the process that they're used to, and it might be a slightly different dance than the one that you would normally do. Lastly, we've talked all about understanding the other culture and doing the dance that works for them, but at the end of the day, the same thing holds true with this type of negotiation as any kind of negotiation with anyone. If they cross that line in the sand, walk away. Now, the way we walk away might be a little bit different depending on the culture. We might stay in touch in a different way, or we might end the negotiation in a different way than we normally would according to our culture. But at the end of the day, the end result should be, if you are not getting enough out of this deal, if the deal does not make sense anymore, it's okay to end the negotiations. Because at the end of the day, the choices we make today are going to set us up for the happenings for tomorrow within our businesses or even our personal life negotiations. Speaking of setting us up for tomorrow, you're going to notice in the description of this video, there's a link to download the Future Ready Playbook. I designed this playbook just for you to help you be more strategic in how you're planning your future. It's chock full of activities and worksheets. They're going to help you think more strategically about your personal future, your career, and if you're a business owner, the future of your business as well. If you haven't already, take a moment and download it.